In this video, we will show you how to replace your power steering return line on this Jeep Patriot. This will be located along the passenger side of your engine compartment. Let's get into it. A quick note about doing this job, you will have to make your way under the front of the vehicle. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. To be able to remove our part, we're going to have to remove our coolant reservoir first. To do that, we're going to make our way all the way over towards the top of the radiator. Let's start disconnecting our overflow hose from the top of the radiator here. If you needed to, you could remove your radiator cap. You just want to make sure that your cooling system is not under pressure. To disconnect the hose itself, just go ahead and take hold of it. We're going to give it a little twist, attempting to separate it and pull it off of the area. A thorough inspection of the radiator where it mounts, just confirming that it's not damaged in any way. Go ahead and follow that hose down to its next mounting point, down in this area. Now for this, we're just going to pry this out of place. You can use a trim tool or even a screwdriver if necessary. All right, now we can start dislodging the coolant overflow tank from its mounting bracket. You're going to find that it has one 13mm headed mounting bolt. Let's remove that. Continuing on, we want to take hold of our overflow hose so it's not facing down. Have a look in this area where your coolant reservoir and washer fluid reservoir meet. We're going to draw the coolant reservoir straight forward and away from this area. Should be able to go ahead and wiggle it right out of position. A quick inspection and we'll set this aside. Continuing from here, we're going to remove as much fluid from inside of the power steering reservoir as possible. Remove the cap by turning it counterclockwise. I have a fluid extraction tool. We'll dispose of that fluid properly. For now, I'm just going to rest the cap in position here. We can continue on to our one 13mm headed mounting bolt. With the bolt out of there, we can take hold of this, lift it up as necessary. Now that we have this dislodged, we can see both of our power steering lines. We're going to dislodge both of these and set the reservoir aside. Of course, there could still be fluid inside of the reservoir or even the hoses. I'm just going to put a small collection receptacle into this area. We want to collect and recycle all the fluid as necessary. Now we're going to start removing the hose clamp from our larger hose here. For this, it has a squeezable clamp. I'm just going to use some pliers. We can squeeze that in. I'm going to bring the clamp down the hose a little bit here so it's away from our power steering reservoir. Continuing on, we need to remove the hose from the reservoir. You might have to break it free using a hose pick. Okay, we'll make sure that this drains into our collection receptacle, of course. Okay, that's pretty much done draining now. You'll find on your brand new power steering reservoir, it came with some rubber plugs. Let's just go ahead and insert those onto our original power steering reservoir, preventing any fluid from making its way out as we continue on. Now that we have the hose off the reservoir, the next thing you need to do is give it a quick inspection. Make sure it is soft and pliable and not torn, worn, or damaged in any way. That looks good. I'm going to set this aside. Let's continue on to the next hose. For the next hose clamp, we're just continuing on with our pliers. Go ahead and squeeze that in. We'll slide it out of place. Typically for this one, I like to just squeeze on the clamp, and then I can remove that reservoir. Now with that out of the way, we're going to have a look directly along the backside here. You can see where there's some AC lines, but it also has a bracket for your power steering return hose. This is held in place with a 13mm headed mounting nut. You can remove that. Now at this point, we should be able to give this a wiggle. It's not going to go very far as of now. Let's continue on with dislodging our washer fluid reservoir. Up along the top of the washer fluid reservoir, you're going to find a 13mm mounting bolt. We can remove that. Now that we have that dislodged, we're going to make our way directly back to where the lines are located. We're going to start separating this area. For this, I'm just using a screwdriver as a prying device, something that's thin enough that I can make my way in between the line bracket and the mounting area. Now we can pivot that. Continuing on, you would want to dislodge the next mounting bracket. This one actually slid off at the same time, but typically it would be on that stud just like this. Go ahead and pry it right off of there. We have a little bit more room with our lines here to start maneuvering the bracket around. This bracket for our power steering return line is going to have to make its way out and around this area. So I'm just going to carefully start pushing down and twisting the bracket rearward. There we are. Now we can pivot that bracket so it's facing down and rearward diagonally. Now the next thing we have to do is make our way along the back side of the engine. Down in this area, we can see a large wiring harness. You can also see that it has a black connector holding our power steering hose in place. For this, it's fairly simple to press down. I'm using a long pry bar. I can reach right down in this area. Press it right out of that bracket. Very simple. Now let's pause in the engine compartment. We'll safely raise and support the passenger side front and remove the wheel. After safely raising and supporting, to remove the wheel, we're going to remove all 5 of our 19mm lug nuts. If you have a center cover, go ahead and remove that now. With that out of place, the next thing we're going to do is start dislodging our inside fender liner. The area that we're displacing is only along the front. We have to make our way behind the front bumper cover. For this, we're going to start down along the bottom. There's going to be 2 plastic push clips. For these, I'm using a trim tool. You can also just use a flat blade screwdriver if necessary. To dislodge your push pins, you want to carefully start removing the center to unlock it, and then you can remove the outer portion as well. Now we do have one more push clip that we're going to remove, but we're going to wait on that until we remove our next 3 mounting bolts. We'll be using a 7mm for these 3 bolts. Now it's time for the last push clip. We'll go ahead and dislodge that, and we should be able to swing this out of the way. Now for this, I'm just holding onto the fender liner. This is a different type of push clip. I'm just going to remove that from the body of the vehicle. Now we should be able to give this a little wiggle here. We're going to have to separate it from along the front bumper cover. For this, if you gently flex on it, you should be able to pull it out of place. There we are. It can only go so far. Now we're going to gently flex this and bring it in and behind the brakes. Now with that out of the way, we'll make our way in and behind the front bumper cover. We can see our power steering return line. This is held in place with 2 plastic mounts. Now in this area where those 2 black clips are, we can pull the clips out and away from the body of the vehicle. If you have a hard time doing this by hand, you can carefully pry in this area, pulling them straight out towards the passenger side. Once you have movement from this area, we can pause behind the front bumper cover. We're going to make our way safely under the front of the vehicle. Now from underneath the vehicle here, we're going to have to make our way up above the subframe. We can see our power steering return hose. We're going to have to follow this up. You can see where it leads all the way up to the body of the vehicle. We have a mounting point here. We're going to separate that. I'll just pry that out of place. There we are. Now we're making our way back down here to our connection point. We're going to go ahead and separate this. So let's make sure that we have a collection receptacle under here so we can collect and recycle our fluid properly. This is a squeezable clamp. I'm just going to be using some pliers. You can also use hose pliers if necessary. Once you squeezed on that, we'll just pull that out of place. Just a quick inspection of the clamp, confirming it is reusable. Otherwise, you do want to replace that. Now, when we do separate this, of course, fluid will come out of the hose leading down here, but you might also find that fluid runs down the line, so you do want to make sure you have your collection receptacle underneath this entire area. I'm using a hose pick to separate this. Now that we have some movement, I'm going to hold the line and we'll start pressing that hose up and out of position. Looks like it's getting close. We'll let this fully drain into our collection receptacle, and then we're going to attempt to plug the hose so no more fluid makes its way out. After that, we'll make our way into the engine compartment. Okay, that seems like it's pretty much stopped at this point. I'm just going to use a rubber stopper. Here we are. Now we'll wipe this down and make our way into the engine compartment. Now we're back inside the engine compartment. We're going to start dislodging the power steering return line. As far as the washer fluid reservoir itself, you can try to flex this out of the way. It can also be lifted up from its mounting bracket down in this area. Just going to go ahead and pivot this until it lifts up. Now we can go ahead and dislodge this. We're going to rest it off to the side. You do not need to disconnect any hoses. Continuing on, we're going to start removing the power steering return lines by starting with the rear aspect. For this, we're going to start pulling it up. You're going to find that it only comes so far. Go ahead and reach along the back side here. We're going to flex that rubber hose so we can gain access to it and pull it up and out as well. See that coming through? It's very flexible. Continuing on, we're going to have to start flexing the lines along this area. Let's just be extremely careful not to cause any damage to anything. Now we'll twist and start pulling this up and out of position. It's going to make its way from behind that front bumper cover. I'm just going to have to try to work this around. We do have a wiring harness and several AC lines that we have to try to bring this around. We'll just have to twist it as necessary. There it is, friend. Okay, friend, let's prepare for installation of our brand new power steering return line. We'll bring it down inside the engine compartment. Have to come in at an angle. We're going to start with the forward end here. We'll try to get behind that wiring harness, of course. Now that we have it over there, we're going to have to continue on with bringing it underneath our AC lines down under here. Just flex things as necessary. Now this part can take a couple minutes to try to get it properly aligned. We want to be underneath our AC lines, but up and over our wiring harness here. After that, we'll continue on to getting our bracket in place on the mounting stud. Just flex it as necessary. Press it on there as far as possible. And the next thing we'll do is continue on with the AC line mounting bracket. That goes right over the bracket for the power steering lines. We'll flex this as necessary. Should be able to slide it as well if necessary. Go ahead and start on your 13mm nut and snug it up. Now we're making our way along the backside of the engine here. You can either reach from the top or come down from the bottom, whichever way is easiest for you. We have to start securing our flexible hose into its mounting point. Let's just go ahead and press that right into this plastic hooked area. Slides right in there. Now we're just going to make our way a little bit down from there. We have another mounting point. This one's just going to slide into the body of the vehicle. Go ahead and align it with the mounting port and slide it in. Double check to make sure that's properly secured. Now we can attach this to the steel line down along the subframe. Let's get our hose in place here, line it up, press it on as far as possible. We want to make sure we have it completely bottomed out. Now we're going to take our clamp, we'll bring it down into a position where we can see hose on both sides of it. When installing the clamp, you want to make sure you can see hose on both sides of the clamp and also feel along the hose side. We want to also be able to feel the tube up on the other side of the clamp. That feels good. Clean up any mess down in this area. Now we're going to make our way in and behind the front bumper cover so we can start securing the forward aspect of this line. Now up in this area, we need to make sure that we have this pressed up against the body of the vehicle as flush as possible. We're going to align our two mounting points and press those into their corresponding ports. This part can be a little bit difficult to get into and see at the same time. Get one lined up. The other one lined up. Press those in as far as possible. Let's just double check, make sure that's properly secured in place before we make our way out from behind the front bumper cover. This looks good. Let's get our fender liner in place. We're going to have to flex this in and behind our front bumper cover. Just go ahead and bend it a little bit if necessary. Should want to slide behind there. Nice tight fit. Continue on with your 3 mounting screws. We're just going to start them in for now, and then we'll continue on with our push clips. After that, we can tighten everything up. Those are all started in. Let's continue on with our push clip along the inboard side here. Line it up, press it in. We have that one in place. Let's make our way to the lower push clips next. Double check to make sure your fender liner is properly secured in place. We can reinstall our wheel. We'll get our wheel in place. If you have a center cover, go ahead and install that and all 5 of your 19mm lug nuts. After you have them started on, go ahead and snug them up. We'll get the wheel back on the ground and we'll be torquing each of these lug nuts to 100 foot-pounds. We've got the wheel on the ground. Let's go ahead and torque these to that 100 foot-pounds in a crisscross manner. Torqued. Let's make our way back up under the hood. Now it's time to set the washer fluid tank into the proper position along its base. As far as the washer fluid tank itself, it has one locating tab, protrudes down. We're going to align it with its corresponding port on the body of the vehicle. Once it's aligned, just go ahead and tap it down as far as possible and we'll continue on with our mounting bolt up along the top. Let's bring our tank into the proper position. We have our 13mm headed mounting bolt. Start it in, snug it up. Double check to make sure that's properly secured in place. Now it's time to install our power steering reservoir. When installing this, we're going to start with our hoses first. I'm going to start with the larger hose. We'll slide that onto the reservoir as far as possible. Once you have it on there, continue on with your clamp. We're going to slide this all the way up towards that reservoir, but we do want to be able to see hose on both sides of the clamp once it's fully installed. That looks good. We'll continue on to the next hose. Essentially the same process for this one. We're going to have to press it on there as far as possible. Just going to move this clamp a little bit further out of the way here. Now, as you can tell, this clamp is a little bit too far towards that power steering reservoir. It's hanging off the hose a little bit. We can't leave it like this. It needs to be properly aligned. Let's make our adjustment. There we are. I can see hose on both sides. A quick tug confirming that both of those hoses are properly secured in place. Let's secure that power steering reservoir. Start in your mounting bolt, snug it up. Now it's time to install the coolant reservoir. Let's get this in position. As we bring the coolant reservoir down along this area, we're going to have to slide the coolant reservoir in and over the tab that's part of the washer fluid reservoir. Let's bring it in here, line it up, press it in. Let's get that hose out of the way. After an audible click, we're going to be paying attention to the mounting bolt port next. Start in the mounting bolt and snug it up. Let's just make sure that's secure, and now we can make our way to resecuring our overflow hose. Just make sure we run it along the proper area. Slide that right up on there. Once you have it pressed on, attempt to tug it out of position. It should not slide out of position. If for some reason it's a loose fit, you can use a wire tie in this area, holding it on. This feels fine. Let's fill the power steering reservoir. Go ahead and remove the cap. Let's continue on with the manufacturer's specified power steering fluid directly inside of this port. You can use a funnel if necessary. Got some fluid here. There we are. At this point, I've done the initial top off of my power steering fluid. We need to remove any air from inside the power steering system. To do this easiest, we're going to safely raise and support the vehicle so the front wheels are off the ground, and we'll turn the steering wheel to full lock in one direction and then full lock in the opposite direction. Repeating this process several times will force the air out of the system. Now, I've repeated that process several times, and I can see that the fluid level has gone down, so I'm going to top it off here. Bring it right up to that maximum line. There we are. Okay, friend, we finished our installation. Now the next thing you need to do is go ahead and start up the vehicle. Let it run for a short while and triple check the fluid level. If it needs to be topped off, make sure you do so. After that, just double check to make sure you've cleaned any messes, close the hood, and take your vehicle for a road test. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.